For more than 2 centuries, the mystery of Oak Island has captivated treasure hunters, historians, and dreamers around the world. A small, tree-covered island off the coast of Nova Scotia, just 140 acres in size, has been the site of one of history's longest-running treasure hunts. And now, in 2026, that hunt may finally be over. Recent episodes of The Curse of Oak Island have revealed discoveries that are being described as the most significant in the island's long and frustrating history. Ground-penetrating radar results have shown something extraordinary beneath the surface, what experts believe could be the legendary Chapel Vault, a hidden chamber that has been theorized about for decades but never proven to exist. The team, working alongside brothers Rick and Marty Lagina, has been using cutting-edge technology to scan deeper than ever before, and what they have found is causing shockwaves throughout the historical and archaeological communities. This is not another ambiguous clue or a single artifact that could be dismissed as a random drop. This is a man-made structure, positioned exactly where old historical maps predicted something would be found. The implications are enormous, and the world is watching. The current season of The Curse of Oak Island, now in its 13th season, has been unlike any that came before it. The Fellowship of the Dig, as the team calls itself, has shifted its approach dramatically. Instead of relying on guesswork and the fragmented records left by previous searchers, they have embraced modern technology in ways that previous expeditions could only dream about. Ground-penetrating radar, sonar mapping, borehole cameras, and advanced metal detection have all been deployed across multiple sections of the island, and the results have been nothing short of stunning. According to television listings from History Channel, the team has found evidence suggesting they are closer than ever to the mysterious vault in the Money Pit area. The phrase vault is significant. For generations, treasure hunters have theorized that the Money Pit, the original shaft discovered in 1795, was not an end in itself, but rather an access point to a larger, more sophisticated underground structure. That structure, the so-called Chapel Vault, named after an early 20th century explorer who first proposed its existence, has remained elusive despite numerous attempts to locate it. Now, advanced radar technology may have finally pierced the veil. The data shows a void, a distinct empty space deep underground, surrounded by what appears to be timber and stone. The dimensions are consistent with a chamber built by human hands, not a natural formation. The team is understandably excited, but they are also cautious. Oak Island has a long history of promising leads that ended in disappointment, flooding, or both. This time, however, the evidence is more solid than anything that has come before. One of the most compelling aspects of the recent discoveries is the growing body of evidence linking Oak Island to Viking exploration and the Knights Templar. In earlier seasons, these connections were speculative at best, based on loose interpretations of symbols and vague historical references. But the current season has offered something much more concrete. The team traveled to Lonceau Meadows in Newfoundland, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the only confirmed Viking settlement in North America. That location is approximately 600 miles from Oak Island, a distance that would have been easily navigable by Viking longships. The purpose of the trip was to compare artifacts and construction techniques, and the results were eye-opening. Similarities were found between certain stone structures on Oak Island and those at Lonceau Meadows. This has led to a compelling theory that the Vikings did not merely pass by Oak Island, but actually established a presence there, possibly in collaboration with the Knights Templar, who arrived centuries later. The idea that two of history's most legendary groups of explorers might have worked together to hide something of immense value on a remote island off the coast of Nova Scotia is the kind of revelation that rewrites history books. And for the first time, there is physical evidence to support it. Metal detector expert Gary Drayton, a fan favorite on the show, has been instrumental in uncovering artifacts that support the Viking Templar connection. Items that were once dismissed as anomalies are now being re-examined in light of the new evidence, and the picture that is emerging is more complex and fascinating than anyone had imagined. But the Viking theory is not the only historical connection that has gained traction this season. The team has also found compelling evidence linking Oak Island to the Knights of Malta, a powerful military order that operated throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. An upcoming episode titled A Fortnight will delve into this connection in detail, exploring the possibility that a Knight of Malta may have visited Oak Island and left behind clues that have only now been discovered. The Knights of Malta, like the Knights Templar, were known for their wealth, their secrecy, and their skill in building fortifications. If they had a hand in constructing the underground structures on Oak Island, it would explain the sophistication of the flood tunnels and the durability of the wooden chambers that have been found. The engineering required to build such a system would have been beyond the capabilities of pirates or ordinary treasure hunters. It required military engineers, and the Knights of Malta had some of the best in the world. The connection to the Knights of Malta also opens up new possibilities for what might be hidden on the island. Unlike pirates, who tended to bury coins and bullion, the knights were known to safeguard religious relics, important documents, and objects of cultural significance. The treasure of Oak Island, if it exists, may not be gold and silver at all. It could be something far more valuable, artifacts that have been lost to history for centuries, waiting to be rediscovered. This possibility has energized the team and captivated audiences around the world. The mystery is no longer just about wealth, it is about history itself. The implications of a Viking Templar connection extend far beyond Oak Island itself. If proven, this theory would rewrite the timeline of European exploration in North America. The conventional history taught in schools holds that Christopher Columbus reached the Americas in 1492, followed by other Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English explorers over the next 2 centuries. But the Vikings were here around the year 1005, centuries before Columbus, as confirmed by the Los Olmedos settlement. If the Knights Templar, who rose to power in Europe during the 12th and 13th centuries, also reached North America and collaborated with Viking descendants, that would mean transatlantic contact occurred far more frequently and involved more players than historians have ever acknowledged. The Legina team's research suggests that the Templars, fleeing persecution after the order was disbanded by King Philip IV of France in 1307, may have transported their vast treasury and sacred relics across the ocean to a hidden location safe from the reach of European monarchs and the Catholic Church. That location, they believe, is Oak Island. The evidence for this theory has been accumulating for several seasons, but the current season has offered the most compelling clues yet. In the swamp area of the island, the team has uncovered structures that appear to be deliberately built, not natural formations. One of the most intriguing discoveries was a stone feature that Gary Drayton, the team's master metal detectorist, identified as possibly being part of a ship's railing. The wood was curved and beveled, clearly worked by human hands, not a piece of driftwood that washed ashore. The location of this find, in the southwest corner of the swamp, is significant because it suggests that the swamp was once a docking or offloading area for ships. If large vessels could navigate into the swamp, it would have provided a concealed landing spot, hidden from view of any passing ships in the bay. This would have been essential for anyone trying to transport treasure onto the island without being detected. Further supporting this theory is the discovery of multiple wooden stakes driven into the ground in the same area. Metal detectorist Katja Drayton, Gary's daughter-in-law who has become a valuable member of the team, found stakes that were embedded 3 to 4 feet deep in the soil. What makes these stakes particularly interesting is their age. Dr. Ian Spooner, the team's geoscientist, examined the layers of peat and soil around the stakes and identified 3 distinct time periods of human activity in the swamp: the 1200s, the 1600s, and the 1800s. The presence of activity in the 1200s is especially significant because it aligns with the era of the Knights Templar. The Templars were active from the early 12th century until their dissolution in 1307. If they were on Oak Island in the 1200s, that predates the official Viking settlement at Los Olmedos by only 2 centuries and places them in North America more than 200 years before Columbus. The scientific evidence coming from the swamp is not limited to wooden structures. The team has been using advanced coring techniques to extract sediment samples from the swamp floor, and those samples are being analyzed for trace metals and other indicators of human activity. Dr. Ian Spooner has been particularly excited about the results. In interviews before the season aired, he hinted that something special had happened on the island, something that would change the way people think about the Oak Island mystery. He has spoken about detecting precious metals in the water samples taken from around the Money Pit area, metals that were not naturally occurring. The presence of gold and silver in the water, even in trace amounts, suggests that there are significant quantities of those metals buried somewhere underground, slowly leaching into the groundwater over centuries. This is not proof of treasure in itself, but it is powerful circumstantial evidence that aligns with the theory of a large hidden cache. The team's focus has also shifted significantly to an area known as the Chapel Vault. This is a theoretical underground chamber, first proposed by an explorer named Frederick Blair in the early 20th century, that is believed to contain the main treasure deposit. For years, the existence of the Chapel Vault was nothing more than speculation, based on drilling logs and the accounts of earlier searchers who claimed to have hit a void at a specific depth. Now, ground-penetrating radar results have detected an anomaly in the Money Pit area that matches the dimensions and location of the theorized vault. The radar shows a distinct void, surrounded by what appears to be timber and stone, at a depth that previous explorers described as the location of a man-made chamber. The team has been drilling boreholes around this anomaly, trying to pinpoint its exact location and determine the best way to access it. In one of those boreholes, designated H9.25, the team hit bedrock and then, at a depth of 198 to 208 feet, brought up a core sample that was described as gooey and loose. That texture is exactly what the team hoped to find because it suggests the presence of a void or decomposed material, possibly the remains of wooden structures or fabric that once protected the treasure. The discoveries in the swamp have been particularly revealing. For years, the swamp was considered a secondary area of interest, overshadowed by the money pit and the numerous shafts dug around it. But recent excavations have completely changed that assessment. The team has found evidence of a man-made structure in the swamp that predates any known European settlement in the area. Wooden stakes driven deep into the ground, carbon dated to the 1200s, suggest that someone was building something substantial on Oak Island more than 300 years before Columbus sailed from Spain. The presence of these stakes, combined with the discovery of what appears to be a ship's railing in the same area, has led to a bold hypothesis that the swamp was once a concealed docking facility, a hidden harbor where ships could unload cargo away from prying eyes. If true, this would explain how large quantities of treasure could have been brought onto the island without being detected by passing vessels. It would also explain why the swamp has yielded so many artifacts over the years, including coins, tools, and fragments of metal that have been dated to multiple time periods. The swamp is not just a swamp. It is an archaeological site of international importance, and it is still giving up its secrets one shovel at a time. The team's research has not been confined to Oak Island itself. In fact, some of the most important discoveries have been made far from Nova Scotia, in the archives and historical sites of Europe. Rick Lagina, along with researchers Corjan Mol and Jacco Silvertant, traveled to the Netherlands to investigate an underground stone quarry that dates back to the 13th century. What they found there was extraordinary. The walls of the quarry were covered with symbols, carvings that matched those found on Oak Island. There was the cross with 4 dots, a symbol that has appeared on multiple artifacts recovered from the money pit area. There were geometric patterns that corresponded to markings on the famous 90-foot stone, the inscribed stone that was reportedly found in the money pit in 1804 and later lost. The quarry was a hidden world of tunnels and chambers, all hand-dug by medieval laborers. Standing in that underground space, Rick Lagina later said, was like standing inside the money pit itself. The team has been drilling boreholes around this anomaly, trying to pinpoint its exact location and determine the best way to access it. In one of those boreholes, designated H9.25, the team hit bedrock and then, at a depth of 198 to 208 feet, brought up a core sample that was described as gooey and loose. That texture is exactly what the team hoped to find because it suggests the presence of a void or decomposed material, possibly the remains of wooden structures or fabric that once protected the treasure. The discoveries in the swamp have been particularly revealing. For years, the swamp was considered a secondary area of interest, overshadowed by the money pit and the numerous shafts dug around it. But recent excavations have completely changed that assessment. The team has found evidence of a man-made structure in the swamp that predates any known European settlement in the area. Wooden stakes driven deep into the ground, carbon dated to the 1200s, suggest that someone was building something substantial on Oak Island more than 300 years before Columbus sailed from Spain. The presence of these stakes, combined with the discovery of what appears to be a ship's railing in the same area, has led to a bold hypothesis that the swamp was once a concealed docking facility, a hidden harbor where ships could unload cargo away from prying eyes. If true, this would explain how large quantities of treasure could have been brought onto the island without being detected by passing vessels. It would also explain why the swamp has yielded so many artifacts over the years, including coins, tools, and fragments of metal that have been dated to multiple time periods. The swamp is not just a swamp. It is an archaeological site of international importance, and it is still giving up its secrets one shovel at a time. The team's research has not been confined to Oak Island itself. In fact, some of the most important discoveries have been made far from Nova Scotia, in the archives and historical sites of Europe. Rick Lagina, along with researchers Corjan Mol and Jacco Silvertant, traveled to the Netherlands to investigate an underground stone quarry that dates back to the 13th century. What they found there was extraordinary. The walls of the quarry were covered with symbols, carvings that matched those found on Oak Island. There was the cross with 4 dots, a symbol that has appeared on multiple artifacts recovered from the money pit area. There were geometric patterns that corresponded to markings on the famous 90-foot stone, the inscribed stone that was reportedly found in the money pit in 1804 and later lost. The quarry was a hidden world of tunnels and chambers, all hand-dug by medieval laborers. Standing in that underground space, Rick Lagina later said, was like standing inside the money pit itself. The structure is massive, far larger than anything previously found on the island. Gary Drayton has been working this area with his metal detector, and the signals have been coming in thick and fast. Among the finds are multiple coins, including a silver halfpenny from the reign of King Edward I of England, who ruled from 1272 to 1307. That date range is crucial because it overlaps perfectly with the period when the Knights Templar were at the height of their power. The coin was found at a depth that suggests it was not a random drop, but was deliberately deposited, possibly as an offering or as part of a ritual. The discovery of the Edward I coin has electrified the team and the show's audience. It is one of the most direct pieces of evidence linking Oak Island to the Templar era, and it has been featured prominently in the show's promotional materials. But the discoveries do not stop there. The team has also found what appears to be a large flat stone with carvings that may be Templar symbols. The stone is too heavy to move easily, so the team has been documenting it in place, using photography and 3D scanning to capture every detail. Preliminary analysis suggests that the carvings match those found in the Netherlands quarry and the Italian abbey, reinforcing the theory of a connected network of Templar sites across Europe and North America. The stone is located in a section of the swamp that has only recently been accessible, thanks to the removal of thousands of tons of mud and overburden. As the excavation continues, the team expects to find more such stones, possibly forming a pattern or alignment that will reveal the location of the main treasure deposit. The swamp, once dismissed as a dead end, has become the most active and promising area of the entire island. The role of technology in these discoveries cannot be overstated. The team is using equipment that did not exist when previous treasure hunters, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt to John Wayne, were investing their time and money in Oak Island. Ground-penetrating radar can now see dozens of feet below the surface, creating three-dimensional maps of underground structures without disturbing a single grain of soil. Sonar imaging can probe the depths of boreholes, revealing voids and cavities that would be impossible to detect with traditional drilling methods. Metal detectors have become so sensitive that they can identify specific types of metal at depths of several feet, distinguishing between iron, copper, silver, and gold. The combination of these technologies, applied systematically across the island, has produced a body of evidence that is far more reliable than the guesses and hunches of earlier generations. And that evidence points consistently to one conclusion: there is something man-made, something large, and something valuable hidden beneath Oak Island. What that something is remains the subject of intense speculation. The most popular theory among the team and the show's audience is that the Knights Templar used Oak Island as a hiding place for treasures and relics they had accumulated during the Crusades. Those treasures may include gold and silver from the Temple of Jerusalem, religious artifacts such as the menorah or the Ark of the Covenant, and important documents, including records of the Templars' vast financial network. Some theorists have even suggested that the Holy Grail, the cup used by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper, may be hidden on Oak Island. While there is no direct evidence for the Grail, the presence of Templar symbols and the Order's known association with relic hunting make the theory plausible to many. Others believe the treasure is of a more mundane but still valuable nature: pirate gold, Spanish silver, or French colonial wealth. The range of possibilities is vast, and until the team opens the vault, the mystery will continue to generate speculation and excitement. The final episodes of Season 13 are expected to air in the coming weeks, and they promise to be the most dramatic in the show's long history. According to the History Channel's schedule, an episode titled The Curse of Oak Island, the final chapter will feature the team's attempt to enter the chapel vault for the first time. The episode description teases that after 13 seasons, the Fellowship of the Dig may finally have their answer. Whether that answer is treasure, historical artifacts, or merely more questions remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the world will be watching. Oak Island has fascinated people for more than 2 centuries, and the current team, led by the Lagina brothers, has come closer than anyone before them to solving the mystery. The treasure awaits, hidden in its secret chamber, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. That moment, it seems, is finally at hand.